Okay, so for the second part of 3.2 samples, first part we looked at some methods of sampling, how you can get a sample that represents the population. This time we're going to look at some of the things that can happen bad to your sample, to your results, if you don't take a good sample. Okay? So the bad side of sampling, bias. We've talked about this a little bit before. Bias is on being an error that happens in one direction. Okay, so this happens if your sample doesn't represent the population. Okay, if it's not proportional, like say we're looking at high school students. Okay, well usually high schools have 25% ninth graders, 25 10th graders, 25% juniors, 25% seniors. They're split up into quarters. Well, if you take a sample that is 90% freshmen, 5% sophomores, 2% juniors, and 3% seniors, well, that's not really representative of the population. I'm going to say I think we'd all agree. Freshmen and seniors, there's a little bit of a difference there. Okay? So you need to make sure it's representative of the population. Now, some sampling methods that we talked about that can go bad, voluntary response sampling. Okay? The individual of the population decide themselves that they want to be part of the sample. Usually these are people that feel very strongly about the question at hand or what the study is looking at. Okay? So you really have to decide, if we have a response rate, is it going to be representative of the population? Okay? Make sure it's not just, okay, this one group are the only people that answered it. That one group's overrepresented, and there's going to be something wrong there with your answering. That might make your proportion maybe a little higher or a little lower for your answer. The parameter of interest isn't going to be truthful. Maybe too high, maybe too low, depending on which group is answering the questions. A convenience sample. Individuals that are the easiest to reach. So again, think about if I'm going to send a high school student down to the cafeteria and say, okay, go find me 10 random students in the cafeteria. That high school student, a lot of times they're going to walk down there. The first place they're going to go to where their friends are sitting. Okay, those are going to be the 10 individuals that are selected. And friends are friends for a reason. They have like-minded, they think the same way. So again, it's not going to be representative of the population. Okay, so voluntary response sampling, convenience sample, we're going to get lopsided results here. Okay, this method can easily mess up the sampling frame. Proportion of the population left out of the sampling frame is called undercoverage. Okay, we have to worry about undercoverage. These are the people that are part of our population, but if they are not given a chance to be a part of the sample, that's going to be a problem. That's the group that is not being represented, the undercoverage. If I walk into a senior homeroom and I'm going to sample my seniors and I'm going to go to homeroom, I know at the high school I teach at, CTC students, people that are in CTC, internship, or career experience, they are not in homeroom. So those people would be considered undercoverage. They're not a part of our sampling frame and they're not able to be part of our sample. So they're not represented. Okay. Response and non-response bias. Non-response bias, this is if you have a low response rate. And the problem with this is, okay, not sure how they would answer the survey. Okay, so we actually recently had parent night at my high school. Okay, and some parents that were there, they were very happy with the format that we run it in. The problem is, they might have been there because they liked the format that we had. What about the people who didn't show up? Okay, we don't know if they like this format, if they don't like the format. Maybe that's why they didn't go, because they didn't like the format. Okay, so you have to make sure non-responses, if you don't get an answer from people, then we're not going to know how they actually feel about the topic we're asking about. Okay. Response bias. If the survey or how it was conducted influenced the response. Okay, so this is we talked a little bit about before. Okay, make sure you watch for loaded questions. You don't want to, when you write out a question, you don't want to give people an idea of the direction they should go to. Make sure it's very general and you're not pointing them into the direction or having them answer a way you want it to answer. Researcher influence. Okay, this is the person asking the question. Make sure they don't have any influence. If a police officer is asking you about maybe drug use, you might answer that person a little different if just a random person that's not an authority figure is asking you that question. Okay, the setting where the survey is taken. Okay, make sure it's a comfortable place. Okay, and actually it might be a room by themselves. So maybe you can make this an anonymous survey, so the questions you don't know who answered what question. Okay, so these are things you're going to want to think about. These are things you're going to want to be able to control when you're doing a sample survey. Okay, so these are some of the downsides. Okay, so we saw good sampling methods, some bad sampling methods. Make sure you think about how the method is going to affect your results. Okay, and that's section 3.2.